I think me and Simons are going to have a conversation about what an extra large is defined as. We step into the Mind of Madness, ladies and gentlemen. Unfortunately, if you're watching this, this is not an archived episode, or rather an archived live episode. It's simply archived because we're having internet problems right now. They've been a bit of a nightmare all week. It's gotten in the way of the Meta Lab, and it's gotten in the way of, obviously, this show. Hopefully we can get this rectified sooner rather than later, so I apologize that we can't do this live. Still got to get you the content. So that said, Memphis is around the corner. That's going to be the talk of a lot of things. I think when it comes down to it, we're going into Worlds. And Worlds is its own mindset. And sometimes you got to take a certain mindset when it comes to an event like this and step back and say, am I worth the nonsense? And when I say, am I worth the nonsense, I mean, those who know me, those who've been watching the show long enough, I do oftentimes try to sort of play off the beaten path. I will try new things, try to come up with weird ideas in spite of the meta. I do try to take it into consideration when I do build, so that doesn't mean I'm completely out of my mind when it comes to building teams. I apologize for glasses on and off, but the glare starts to bother even me. But I have, sometimes when I do jump off this beaten path, I do find that I can't stay off of it too long. So then I step into the realm of similar but different. And when I do that, I get a little too far off of the different. To kind of sum this up, a couple years ago, the metagame shifted in a manner that even I kind of went, I can't do this way. And even I sort of kind of jumped on the bandwagon of what people were doing. Specifically, the year that the tank was introduced, the Pim Pocket tank, I played a team that consisted of a Jakeem Thunder, a Goblin King, a Pim Pocket tank, ID cards, and some kind of resource. I don't remember what resource I used. It wasn't Pandora's Box. Oh, you know what? With the amount of characters that... Oh, sorry. I also had like an Atom, I think. It was those two, and Atom... Off the top of my head, I don't remember exactly what I used, but it was silly. It was nonsense. But it was also falling into what was being used. And it was more in line with what other people were using at the time. Howard Brock went on to win that year with a 175-point Goblin King. I was using a 75.1. I was using ID cards, and it was the round table. That's what I used. Trying to get the most use I could out of it, I think. Either way, that was the first year I graced the top 32 of Worlds, which was an exciting time for me because it felt good, but at the same time, it felt weird for me. Anyway, that's my nonsense for today. So ultimately, I'm kind of falling in line with the current meta right now. I am still investigating other team ideas, which we'll kind of address as episodes go on. But today, there's a lot of exciting stuff, that came from Game Trade Magazine today. And one of those things was a full explanation of the powers that are going to be coming with the WWE set. So let's go ahead and set this up in such a way so that we can look at what we're kind of dealing with here. Actually, I should take this image, open a new tab, do this, and that, close that. There we go. All right. So let's take a look at this, shall we? And this will be there. All right. So these are the powers as they are. I kind of wrote down on another monitor what each of these powers do, so don't expect to read off of those. I'll read them off for you. And there's a selection of speed and attack powers. We've seen no signs of defense or damage powers, which is good news that, all things considered. And if this is all that they add to the power list, I think this is fine. And there's a lot of really cool stuff. Some of it is similar to other powers, but different in certain manners of it. And we'll get into that very quickly here. So, first thing we're going to look at here is Flying Leap, which is the orange, circle, yellow, or movement power. And this power says, offers power, ignores hindering characters for movement, move up to 3 squares, and make a close attack with +1 attack. If this character is started adjacent to 2+ ropes, also modify damage +1. Now, ropes is obviously going to be explained as part of the new pack from the WWE. So a full understanding of that didn't come with this, unfortunately. But I think all in all, it's a pretty decent power with Flying Leap. It's like a short range charge with extra bonus, So it's like we set your range or your movement value to a specific amount. You ignore characters, break away automatically. You, as a result, not really break away automatically because plasticity would stop you, but you just ignore the existence of the characters in this case. And you ignore any hindering in between you. And then you can get between +1 attack and +1 damage depending on the situation the character's in. Now, if I briefly looked at what ropes could be, and I believe that was like adjacent blocking and characters can add to the rope count. I don't know. Either way, Flying Leap is a cool power, and depending on the range, it's one of those situations. I'm going to look at this from a point of view where I've thrown a wrestling character, a WWE character, on my team with a character to pick a power. And I would say, would I pick Flying Leap? And if I am less than my charge range away, and I'm within 3 squares of the character, I'm taking Flying Leap over charge without a shadow of a doubt. Especially if I'm somehow locked down to an opposing character. This gives me automatic breakaway. I think this is a really good power and really potent in what it does. So, if I have a pick power dude and I can pick a movement power, I'm going to pick Flying Leap over charge in a lot of cases based on the distance that we're moving. Now, note, it says move up to 3 squares, which means no amount of perplexing is getting you extra movement. So you need to be there for it to work. I hate when people put food near my desk. All right. But we move to the next power. Slingshot, which I believe is the purple circle on movement. This one gives knockback, similar to Force Blast. But you may choose the direction and can knock back characters with charge and combat reflexes. Now, a little bit of clarification is going to be required because there's a comma next to that capitalized knockback. I do believe it's only when you use knockback as sourced from Slingshot will that function. I've had a lot of combination ideas in conjunction with this that seemed really cool. But being able to knock back characters with charge and combat reflexes takes away a lot of possible hesitations you had to deal with those characters. And now you can just knock them back willy-nilly without having to use an outwit towards the... I mean, use outwit on combat reflexes, guys. That +2 defense is obnoxious. But, in addition to which, free... make a close attack targeting an adjacent character that this character knocked back this turn. Now, here's where combinations start to come into mind. I full move with this character. And I don't full move. I have somebody with a source of free barrier. Let's go with the 0 ring as an example. I put barrier behind your dude. And then I charge with this guy. Let's say they have charge. This is a movement power. It's weird, okay? But I, in some way, shape, or form, knockback with this character. Now I can make a free close attack targeting the character as long as I knock them back. So you push him against the wall and you hit him again. It's a slingshot. This is the Irish whip, ladies and gentlemen. This is bouncing them off of the ropes. Or rather, bouncing him into the turnbuckle is probably more appropriate. You hit him into the turnbuckle. He comes back out. You hit him again. I love it. It's super flavorful. If you've seen things like this happen in wrestling, And you really get an understanding of how this power kind of feels, looks, tastes, everything like that. So next up, brown on the movement with the circle, is lightning speed. Now you'll see another thing is some of these powers are very similar but different. And lightning speed is no different in that matter. This one gives you power, ignore characters for movement, move up to 3 squares, then make a close attack, then move up to 2 squares. So it's a very like short level. It's like a charge followed by a sidestep, all breakaways, automatic. And there's a lot that can be done with that. Again, we come back to the situation. Do I have a WWE character, and am I able to pick a power? And would lightning speed work in a lot of situations? Well, in some situations where you'd like flying leap, that extra sidestep, side-sized movement with the lightning speed takes you that little bit extra further and goes a long way, I think, towards making this effective short-range power. It's not better than hypersonic. It's not better than charge. It's not better than flying leap, but it is an option depending on where you need to be from this. Now, you'll note a lot of these powers are requiring close attacks, which means you're either using WWE guys with these powers or you're picking powers with characters who are a little bit more close combat focused. You got to be ready to play the close game on this. But we have that WWE team ability, which has the WWE rules attached to it, along with pin, and there's all kinds of cool stuff ahead of this. So keep your eyes on it, and just generally understand that these powers are neat. They're not necessarily breaking the world per se. I think Nimble is a power that should be in the main game, I want to point out, not just limited to WWE. Because I think 90% of the characters that have sidestep should in fact just have Nimble. But this is this passively gives a character ignore hindering and a +2 to their breakaway, and they are allowed to free move up to 1 square. It's okay. It is marginally better than sidestep, but it is not 100% better than sidestep. Where sidestep gives you 2 movement, the second you have flight, everything is amazing. But the +2 breakaway is astronomical, because very frequently I met with the option to breakaway sidestep and fail. And while it doesn't hurt as much, it would be nice to only fail on a 1. Because in a lot of those situations, I'm just moving 1 square over to the next problem. So, in addition to which, Nimble will help you get away from breakaways, help you break away from plasticity a little easier. You don't need that 6 necessarily. So, it is either here or there. But those are the 4 movement powers that they seem to be adding. Whether this is all they add, I can't be sure. This article kind of lays it out as it's kind of all there is. But let's wait till the pack for final notification on that. Let's move on to the attack power, shall we? So the first of the attack powers is reversal. Adjacent opposing characters have breakaway -2. So it's an attack power that gives you plasticity. Note that this will stack with plasticity, thus making it significantly harder for your opponent to break away with even a +2. So let's say you have leap and climb, and you want to break away from my guy with plasticity and reversal. Well, you're still going to need a 6. So good luck with that. You will not have fun. All right. So reversal, adjacent opposing characters have breakaway -2. Free. If this character has been given no actions or only a move action this turn, make a close attack targeting a character that missed this character or failed to break away from this character since your last turn. Overall, this one's not breaking the game. This is not as strong as plasticity. It has similar effects to plasticity, but plasticity has a lot more stopping power. The ability to make a free attack on an opponent who tried to break away and failed for free is pretty cool if you can start stacking this power on characters with breakaway, or not breakaway, with pick a power type things. So let's say they somehow have plasticity and you in a world where the exospecs exists, understand that this is kind of gonna come into play. So yeah, Reversal's very, very, very cool. And it's a miss attack, so note your super senses could force the miss, therefore giving you a free attack. There's a lot of reach on this power, but it's not as as it could be. So next up we have Slam, which is close. Make a close attack. After resolutions, choose one. Give a hit character an action token, and place a hit character in a square adjacent to this character. This is just perfect. This is just great. I either slam you and move you like a power slam, or I slam you and hold you down and give you an action token to wear you out with the slam. I like it. It's very cool power. Very cool. Very simple. I mean, who doesn't want to make a close attack and give you an action token in some cases? If you're going to be using your pick a power guy, you don't have any kind of bonuses aside of like that you need a close action to perform. Like you don't have exploit weakness ready to go. You don't have like a close combat expert or anything like that. Slam, perfectly fine power. Or you want to make it so that they can't make an action next turn. That's even better. Also, size doesn't matter. So take your Colossal and move them over here for a second. That could be a massive gain in range in some Colossals. Or double base characters, because what we're seeing with X-Men is pretty cool. Alright, next up we have Stun. When this character hits one or more characters, a hit character modifies attack and damage -1 until your next turn. So this is a long-term sort of, I stunned you, I bonked you on the head, and you're kind of dazed, and you're going to have a hard time attacking me next turn. And then last but not least, Submission Hold. Free, if this character hasn't been moved or placed this turn, deal 1 damage to target adjacent opposing character. Both characters gain immobile until your next turn. So this is poison with a touch of flavor. And if you can find a way to combine this with poison and do 2 free damage and immobilize the character that you're doing it to, that is... one thing worth noting is it doesn't require that the character takes the damage. So if you don't want them to go anywhere anyway, you use Submission Hold. Okay, they had toughness. Oh, that's fine. They're not going anywhere because they're now immobile, and I think that's pretty potent. All things considered on that one. So overall, the powers look really cool. And there's going to be some characters, I think, that come with them that the WWE might be able to use in some of these cases. Some of these characters, like, say they have Submission Hold, combined with, say, the Remaker Ring. Devin and I were in a conversation about this earlier, and he was like, hey, give somebody with Submission Hold a Remaker Ring, which is pretty easy to do when you consider that WWE rules allows them to move for free out of their starting area, so they're going to be able to equip items no problem. So the first character that starts with Submission Hold truly is the King of the Ring. You know what I did there. Okay, but that aside, let's talk about Memphis. And this upcoming World Championships and what that's all going to entail. And what we kind of where we stand in the world of Heroclix right now going into this event and what we should be prepared for. I seem to be getting a little bit of... Okay, we're all lined up again. I had some weird, like... What I was saying wasn't quite lining up with what I was doing on the camera there a second. Man, even my computer is just taking a dump on me. It's not even just the internet. Alright. So, we go back to shrinking my face. And we take a look at HC rounds. Now, the current modern age... Set count... Post-rotation, went back to pre-rotation. I am not looking forward, personally, to the end of this current modern. That, especially when 2017 gets cut, it's going to barely feel like a scratch. If that makes, like... We're probably gonna cut a little bit... I'm talking about the future. Let's not get into that. Let's talk about the reality here. So we have Elseworlds, Mighty Thor, including the small sets. We have Undead, Thor Ragnarok, Harley Quinn and the Gotham Girls, Star Trek the original series, X-Men Xavier's School, Avengers Infinity, TMNT 4, Batman the Animated Series, Secret Wars Battle World, Earth X, Captain Marvel movie set, Rebirth, Avengers Black Panther, Regenesis, and Star Trek Resistance is Futile. All kind of making... There's like 18 sets. That is not including con-exclusive figures, which also factor into the collection of figures. Modern went from reasonable to big again. And this all comes from the new licensing. And it's not a problem, but it's telling. Why is it telling? Well, there's a number of archetypes that are playable. And I want to point out that the Cosmic Theme Team... I just realized that I put something on there that shouldn't be on there. Is not... How do I put this? We get lost in the theme, but fail to see the archetype. Cosmic, as a theme team, is playable in multiple variations in different archetypes. There is the Kobik Trader Unseen Collector Control archetype, which basically sort of takes your team and stalls it out while at the same time calling in IDs. Most of the offense on this particular build that I'm referring to is off-board and limited. So if somehow you can stem the pain of what's about to come, that team loses a fair bit of steam. Now, that's not to say that Kobik Trader and all of them can't do anything on their own. The Collector is super potent as a power character. And there's also variations on this team that have been finding a way to give you the Mystics team ability, firing a Cyclops ID card at you. You've now damaged my dude. I'm going to Mangog your team. Oof. Be careful of that. With 18 plus sets, we have to look at sets one of multiple archetypes. There's of course undying, hard to kill cosmic archetypes, including things like the Unimind still, along with Lockjaw. Very difficult to kill teams. Starro falls into that. Like he's a difficult nut to crack. Who can heal himself. Excuse me. Hyperlethal, stop click. Just redonkulous manners to deal with. And it's just, as a whole, it is the current keyword right now. And we do have to be aware of it, but don't say I'm using a cosmic theme team means you're using one archetype. There are 7 or 8 different ways you can play the cosmic theme team and really kind of take your opponent for a number. Another thing is Cosmic has become the new Mystical, but traditionally, design-wise, Cosmic characters are always a little bit tougher in that manner. Where Mystical is the definition of glass cannon, Cosmic is more like a wrought iron cannon. It can deal out a ton of damage, and it can take a fair bit. Not necessarily a lot, but it also comes with a lot of the toolboxes that Mystical also seems to have in the way of Perplex, Power, Probability Control, and everything like that. Now, that said, Mystical is not out of the metagame yet. I do believe, and I've talked to some people who have come up with some variations on the Mystical theme team that really kind of go. And a lot of it is how much Perplex and Prob the Mystical theme team really has. That compounds next to the Scientist keyword, which the Scientist keyword, kind of like the Mystical keyword, it's got a lot of glass cannon potential to it, but also comes with the Perplex probability control functionality, but also plays a little bit more of a tight, close-knit game. There's a lot of Scientist characters right now that are basically really dependent upon being close to each other, or close to whoever is doing the thing that you want to make good. And that that's just its own thing. There is a build of X-Men that still exists, guys. Don't kid yourself. X-Men are playable right now, and it's just not obvious. What else do we have? We have new ID card selections abundantly. I know I've talked about this on Metal Lab, but not everybody watches this and the Metal Lab. And Regenesis, specifically, let's go back to that HC Realms and take a look here. Because Regenesis, there is a Wolverine callable at 120 points with 2 stop clicks. Has a lot more survivability if you want to go in that direction. I don't suggest it. I don't think it's the way to go. There's also a Cyclops with multiple stop clicks if you want a safer, higher point Cyclops if you're playing a team that can functionally use that. We have added to the pool a Kitty Pryde who's at 40 points who brings in a Lockheed Pog. Lockheed Pog has both Energy Explosion and Enhancement. Sorry, we'll just look at that there. I could have sworn he had Enhancement. I might be wrong. Nope, it's the Kitty Pryde who has the Enhancement. I'm bad. I am bad at my job. Lockheed has Energy Explosion still, though, with Running Shot. And he's tiny. He's a good add-on to your team. So I apologize if I got your hopes up there. We have a new Storm to add to the ID card, who's poppable at 50, which also has this. Oh, yeah, because she's traded with Force Blast, you can knock a dude back and then make an attack again if they don't go very far, which you can arrange. You can arrange pretty easily. She's also got sidesteps, so she can full move, or she can do her running shot, and then, much like Cyclops, sidestep her way off the board. It's shorter range, still an option. She's 50 points. 40-point Beast, if you ain't using him, you have something else going on, and you don't need him. But this is the Beast we've been waiting for to use the Beast ID card. Because it's this trait, letting the Beast out. Now, you're not usually using a Jean Grey School for Higher Learning theme team. Okay? But when you call in Beast, you can choose either Outwit or Battle Fury and +1 to all of his combat values. So why is this good? Well, let's say you have that Kobik. Kobik has two evasion abilities, Shape Change and Super Senses. And you charge with Beast with 11 attack, 4 damage, you're going to do a ton of damage. If you can single target, get Beast adjacent just to her, you can 11 attack, 4 damage, Quake, possibly almost killing a Kobik in one go. Now, granted, you're going to need an 8. They have probability control. This is not a sure thing. But Beast can also do that thing that is kill Star Fox, because Star Fox is cosmic. Also, there's an Avengers team that exists that uses Medusas. We have a new Emma Frost. I don't think we're going to see her called in. It's not bad. It's not great. And I think you have to choose one. Yeah, you choose one. Okay. There's no Gambit ID card. We have a new Magneto we can be using with an 80-point version. Not what we're looking at, but it's on the board. Rachel Summers now has a usable 50-point character with Hypersonic. Iceman now has a Hypersonic. I'm going to talk about that in a second. Hypersonic as your attack power, as your movement power, is also super potent when you consider that a lot of the time we want these guys off the board. So if I can move 4 squares, shoot 4 squares, move another 4 squares, peace out. I was never even a threat to be a problem. In addition to which, her wanted poster gives running shot. So good. We have a new Colossus roaming around with charge. He's not great. Not great. But okay at best. He's okay. We have the Iceman, like I said. Has Hypersonic, has 5 range, so he's not as high range as Rachel Summers can be. But nothing wrong with this dude at all. Oh, don't think we have an ID card for Hope Summers. We have a new Angel to work off of, which is playable at either 70 or 50 or 40 points. And 40 points is not a bad character at all. To say anything about him. We have a Psylocke to work off of too, who's playable at 40 points or 90 points. There's some reach on those. And then we also have the prize Wolverines and Cyclopses being added. Overall, I think the selection of characters that we have available to us from Regenesis really, really bulks up the options that we have for ID cards, and I think that's an important element to start considering. If you're sleeping on Rachel Summers and you're sleeping on Beast, maybe grab a coffee and wake up a little. I just had an energy drink myself. Iceman with the other low point option. It's not 60 points at the Chase was kind of iffy on a lot of teams. 50 points on the Regenesis one. Zip on out, buddy. You do your thing. I think both are very, very solid options. We move next to Star Trek, and one of the things that people have been talking about big time has been Q. And I know I talked about him briefly. He adds to the pool of available characters for Cosmic. And if you see the use for him, sure, include him. Don't expect him to win the game for you necessarily. He will come in through in a pinch. So I'm not going to completely poo-poo him, but, brace yourself to know what you are putting in and why you're putting it in with Q. I think that's the best way to look at him. And then, of course, there's the other Q. Also very solid. Playable 50. Can mastermind. Keeps damage off of him. Triple target. 8 range. Incapacitate. Not the greatest, but can be used. One of the problems that both these Qs have is that they can Trader Kobik them down by dropping their team ability and then just pushing them. Please be ready to punish something like that if you are going to run a Q. Like, just if they do that, make them regret it. That's all I ask. That's all I ask you to do. We mentioned there's some scientists added to this. So, fresh to the metagame, off of Canadian Nationals, this is what we got to do. Now, with that said, we have another thing to discuss, and that is the upcoming Team World Championships. Now, I know on the channel we have some plans to help players plan for that, but this is something we all kind of have to understand going into Worlds, is that we are using a brand spanking new set for Team Worlds. Very few people will have had their hands on this. One of the few people who does have their hands on it is Scott Porter. YouTube.com/WizKidsOfficial. Go pay attention to what he's pulling. Some of the stuff he's pulling is going to be relevant and sealed. One thing I'm observing is that there's going to be a few Colossal Retaliators that can really push their way into the sealed game. Team Worlds is going to be played with this set. Brace yourself and ready yourself for what's coming in that set. And do your research. Usually, I kind of like to sit back on the spoiler season, not get too deep into it. Heck, we're part of the spoiler season as it is, because some of our product, we do get some product, and we do get to share that with you. But where usually I kind of like to go, ooh, I can't wait to see what the set has. If you're going to Team Worlds, you kind of gotta absorb this spoiler season, unfortunately. And now I know on our Facebook we've been sharing from all the sources that have been getting it, so keep an eye on that. We do have to kind of isolate that somewhere in our photo section, like we usually do, I think, at some point. Watch Scott Porter's videos. We'll have ours, of course, when they come, if we do happen to get it. And we will be, where we usually kind of build with sealed, when it comes this close to Team Worlds and we know that the set's going to be used for Team Worlds, we will focus on team-focused building in that, like, 3-person team building in that case. So we will prep you for that. But research, awareness, knowledge, and knowing where and what information to get will be key to this, because there's no practicing this. Like, the set comes out after Worlds. So this is our This is our pre-release event. So brace yourself. Get ready with whatever spoilers. And one thing that will help you a little as well, HC Realms, the forums, does have under the upcoming sets and rumors will be updating as figures become available to the collective unconscious or the collective consciousness. So keep your eyes on that for full knowledge, because when it comes down to it, sealed knowledge helps speed up the build process, and awareness on figures helps build up the process. There's another thing. There's a soft skill that helps the mindset, and I don't want to stress that this is a thing, but how putting this in, this is a weird thing I'm going to say. If you read the comics, you know what the character does 9 times out of 10. I read comic books, and I know that Colossus is going to run, charge, and throw things at people, possibly. It's a thing. Wolverine's going to have claws and that kind of stuff. So, innate comic knowledge helps a little bit. Make yourself aware, familiar with X-Men for something like a pre-release, or when you're coming in with almost no knowledge. It helps a little. Just because the initial build, sometimes you feel you're in a bit of a rush. All right. So, that said, we're going to wrap it up for today. WWE looks like it's going to be cool. We got a lot of figures to talk about in regards to the metagame with. And I also want to point out, there's, I think, 2 or 3 weeks where I can... Yeah, there's 2 more episodes after this one that I can do on this show before we go into too late time. So I might throw a couple extra episodes here and there, just to keep the conversations alive and going. But for the most part, it's go time. It is time to start looking at everything out there in the 18 odd sets we have to work with, and come to a conclusion soon about what we want to start using. And if you need it, get those practice games in so you can better prepare yourself. I know myself, I'm going to be trying to use as much as the next couple Sundays as I can to get my own practice in. So here's hoping things go the way I want them to go. In the meantime, thanks for joining me. Thanks for stepping into the crazy with me. And I hope you enjoyed your most recent trip into the mind of madness.